Yesterday, I stood on a wind-swept, snow-covered height on Parliament Hill and watched the dedication of a memorial to one of Canada's outstanding prime ministers, a man who, if he had followed the dictates of his own heart and conscience, might have died in comparative obscurity. This was the day in Ottawa, as a new session of Parliament opened, that the statue of Sir Robert Borden was unveiled, an impressive figure of the statesman, sculpted in bronze, standing 9 feet 3 inches high on a base of Canadian granite. Sir Robert was Prime Minister of Canada from 1911 to 1917. He was the man who defeated Sir Wilfrid Laurier in 1911. The statue stands on a rise of land just west of the west block of the Parliament buildings. It was unveiled by Sir Robert Borden's nephew, Henry Borden, QC of Toronto. The Prime Minister was there, as was Opposition Leader John Diefenbaker, and of course the creator of this piece of sculpture, Miss Frances Loring, a bright, vivacious artist of international fame, and now in her 70th year. It was chilly in Ottawa at the unveiling, and only a small crowd had gathered for the ceremony. The events of Sir Robert's stewardship as head of the government in some of its stormiest years had been apparently ignored by the present generation. Those of the public who were on hand were mainly older citizens, and there was many a memory returned as the cover fell from the bronze statue to reveal the leonine head and handsome figure of the Nova Scotia lawyer who headed the Conservative Party for so many years. A man who started his political life as a Liberal but switched to the Tories. A man who had lectured at Oxford. A man who at one time, like another well-known present Conservative, George Drew, represented Ottawa's Carleton riding in Parliament. The last Prime Minister of Canada to be knighted by the Crown. A debater whose sonorous, mellifluous tones argued some of the greatest issues of Canada's history. But withal, a man who on at least 2 occasions felt that he should give up. A great man who almost missed greatness. And so, Sir Robert Borden stood enshrined on Parliament Hill on the opening day of the 4th session of Canada's 22nd Parliament. There was more fanfare at the opening on the Hill. There was more color and more excitement, but it did nothing to eclipse the memory of the white-plumed statesman who will live in Canadian history as one of our eminent prime ministers. Indeed, it was a fitting background for the triumphs and the tragedies which Sir Robert had lived during his long years in Ottawa. His grave lies in Ottawa's Beechwood Cemetery, not far from that of his worthy opponent, Sir Wilfrid Laurier, in Notre Dame Cemetery. And now, this timeless memorial to his integrity and service to his country stands on historic Parliament Hill, along with the other great men who played their parts in writing the Canadian story. But had it not been for the persuasion of friends and party colleagues, Sir Robert might rest in his birthplace of Grand Pre, Nova Scotia, virtually forgotten. Twice in 1904 and 1908, Sir Robert faced not only with personal defeat at the polls, but also with the defeat of his own party, felt that he was unworthy to continue and tried to resign. And it was only due to great pressure on both occasions that he agreed somewhat reluctantly to continue. But continue he did, and finally in 1911 came his election triumph over Sir Wilfrid and his long tenure of office until 1920. He died in June of 1937 at the age of 83. This statue, unveiled yesterday, is not only a tribute to an outstanding Canadian, it is also a memorial to the whims of fate.